When Kevin Raposo launched KnowTechie in 2014, he had no idea it would grow into a thriving tech news outlet. He just wanted journalists to answer his emails. He was working as a PR consultant and figured reporters would be more receptive to his pitches if they considered him to be one of their peers. But after 3 years of running the site, its audience blew up, and Kevin was able to hire several writers to expand its coverage. And while the rise of generative AI has eaten into its traffic, KnowTechie continues to drive meaningful revenue. In a recent interview, Kevin walked me through his accidental entry into content marketing, his strategy for growing KnowTechie's audience, and how running the site impacts his day job as a tech PR consultant. Hello, I'm Simon Owens, and this is The Business of Content, the show about how publishers create, distribute, and monetize their digital content. If you want to listen to an audio version of this show, subscribe to The Business of Content wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're a longtime fan of this show, you're probably aware that it's not monetized with ads. I'm entirely reliant on paid subscriptions to my Substack newsletter to fund this content. Subscribers get access to a deep archive of interviews with the world's most successful media entrepreneurs. They also get to book a half-hour introductory Zoom call with me. Go to simonowens.substack.com. That's simonowens.substack.com. Or just Google the words Simon Owens and newsletter. Okay, let's jump into the interview. Hey, Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Simon.
So we're here to talk mainly about this website that you run called, I think it's KnowTechie.
Yep.
But I'd love to just start with like how you ended up founding it. I was looking at your LinkedIn and your bio and stuff like that. You don't have like a traditional journalism background per se, but you did have like a comms, blogging kind of content background. What was kind of your early career? What did that look like?
It's funny because I kind of got thrown into the sharks. I was working at a startup called Simply Safe, which is basically a security company, and they needed someone to man up their SEO. I didn't know what SEO meant. Originally, I thought it was SEO, so I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But they needed someone to learn, and I was like, sure. So basically,
they just hired you straight out of college, and you had like a degree?
No.
Not even.
I was working in the warehouse, so I was like employee number like 6 maybe. And
in the warehouse, because they have it's security equipment, so you were like loading the packages onto trucks and that were being delivered to people. Okay.
And at that time, there was only like 7 of us working at the company, so we all wore many hats, and so I took the initiative and manned up this SEO thing that I'd never heard of, and basically learned the ins and outs of how to get ranked. And apparently, I was a good writer.
Yeah, well, why did they recruit you? Like, you didn't know what it was. You were working in the warehouse. Was there something?
So one day I was walking by the office, and they were working on taglines for like the website. And I basically just threw out an idea, and they were like, hey, that's pretty good. Do you have more like that? And I was just like, I don't know. So I kind of just went with it and, faked it till I made it. But apparently I had a knack for creating content. And, I was one of the first people to create this piece of content about home security where I actually interviewed burglars and wrote a series for the website. And it was called Bob the Burglar, and it was a massive success. And it gained a bunch of links and all that stuff, and that's when I learned how to link build by creating pieces of content that attracted links. So apparently I had this knack for it, and I just ran with it. And then one day my boss told me, she's like, dude, you can make a lot of money if you went solo. And I was like, huh. And ended up just like a year later just going solo and consulting, and then starting KnowTechie.
Yeah, so the goal with the blog, it was just like content marketing, like early content marketing and stuff like that of we want to be kind of first of mind when people are thinking about security, so we're going to create a lot of content about how to secure your home and stuff like that.
So KnowTechie actually was...
No, I'm talking about Simply Safe.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the Simply Safe blog was exactly that. Just a place where, someone searches home security, Simply Safe popped up first. We did a good job at it.
Yeah. So you left Simply Safe and you started like an SEO content consulting business?
Basically, I was just like working for like outreach campaigns and stuff like that, SEO companies, agencies, things like that. But then I shifted into digital comms, doing PR, more media relations stuff. I really liked chasing down journalists, getting to know their beat, and pitching them stuff that I think they would like. So at that point, I was way out of my league. and like my writing wasn't as best as it is today. So I had to like practice at it. So I figured what better way to get inside a journalist's inbox than by being one. So I ended up starting KnowTechie, and basically it was just a place for me to practice my writing, and like find new stuff to write about and things like that. And it just like morphed into this other thing that it grew really fast.
Yeah. Had you been reading like other tech blogs, or like was there like like Gizmodo or Engadget, or like
Oh yeah.
what were you trying to emulate, kind of?
So one thing I hated at that time was everyone was into like funding news, and it was like really like financial driven stuff, like boring number driven things that where I simply wasn't really interested. Um, so I came up with the idea of just writing like 300 word articles, 200 word articles on. This is about like 10 years ago, and at that time Google was not promoting content like that. If it was short, then it wasn't really getting ranked. So I struggled with that at first, but I just kept at it, and eventually they rewarded me, and now everyone's doing it today.
Doing what? Short content?
Yeah, short content. Yeah, short form.
Yeah. You launched KnowTechie, and is it like a what kind of tech was it all kinds of tech? Was it focusing on like consumer gadgets, or like what was it focused on?
It was mainly consumer tech, so like new smartphones, new hardware, new apps, things like that. Just mainstream tech news.
Yeah. And so was it like, were you trying to make that your like main thing, or were you just doing it like during your free time when you weren't working on client work? Like how did you kind of think of it early on?
Yeah, honestly, it was just a way for me to build my chops up and just try to get in touch with journalists. And then it gained a lot of traffic, and I was just like, maybe this is a lot bigger than I originally thought it would be. And I just ended up going with it. So,
So when you say like get in touch with journalists, like they would maybe know you because they were reading your blog, so they would be
yep,
more likely to respond to you.
correct, yes. And also just being like in the club, you know what I mean? Back when Twitter was at its heyday, every journalist was on Twitter, and it was like a really like online community, like where you could just like drop in their DMs, DM groups, and all that fun stuff. And if you were consistent and your avatar was pretty rememberable, then you were easily getting your emails opened.
Yeah. So you're pumping out content. It's pretty short form, only 2 to 300 words.
Yeah.
How did it start? How did you start growing an audience?
Mainly, it was SEO driven. I wasn't really targeting keywords, but I just knew like what was popular at that time, and I would basically newsjack things like that. Like when Snapchat came out, if they came out with a new filter, I would teach people how to install those new filters. So it was really like it was all time driven, I guess I could say. Building my audience was mainly just like knowing what people were searching for.
Yeah. And like how many posts were you publishing a day? Was this like 20 a day or like two
No,
a day?
no, I wish. I wish. So again, I was a really young writer back then. So I was mainly pumping out like probably like 4 or 5 articles. Now, mind you, I still had a day job. Eventually I had to get staff. But it's weird because like the first like 3 or 4 years, I wasn't trying to make money off the site. It was mainly just like a way to practice and get to know journalists and things like that. But then eventually I started making money, renting ad space, things like that. And I realized I had something, so I had to start hiring people. And I gained a really good employee back then, way back when. And we got into gaming news as well. And we had a network of guys who basically wrote for free. They volunteered their time, and they helped build the site up for me. And yeah, it's I'll never forget those guys.
Yeah. So how long did it take before you started seeing some like real traffic?
Real traffic, I would say about year 4.
Year 4. So you were
Yeah.
just like kind of just writing into the void for
Oh my God, yes.
like three or 4 years, and then that traffic mainly came through Google.
Yep.
And
Google, yeah.
yeah. And this was still time where like a lot of tech sites were still, websites in general, were still getting a lot of traffic from Facebook before, it turned off the spigot. You weren't really playing that game.
No, we weren't big enough at that point. I would say like year 2, we probably had like 1,000 likes, at that time. So it was mainly just writing into the void and just being consistent with it.
Yeah. And so year 3 or 4, you start taking on like ads. Like how did you do that? Was it just like plugging into like a programmatic ad network, going after your own sponsors, doing native advertising content? How did you wade into that?
So mainly it was like Google AdSense, and then what started before that was someone being like, "Hey, let me give you money so I can put this on your website." And I was like, "Oh, okay, this person actually wants to advertise on this hobby website that I just made up." But mainly it was Google AdSense back in the day, and then eventually it morphed into like Mediavine, and yeah.
Mediavine being like an ad tech network that you can just embed, and it programmatically serves like like display ads and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's fully managed, so you don't have to worry about a thing. They do all the hard work for you. Because ad tech is so confusing. I still don't get it today.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the point of it. Is it's purposefully opaque.
I briefly was with like a Pubmatic as well. But that was more hands-on, and I really didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. So you start generating some traffic, you get into Google AdSense and then Mediavine. And then it's like, is it kind of like a page view game at that point? Because like since it's all programmatic, you're like it's purely CPM based. Like I need to get as much traffic as possible, right?
Extremely vanity metrics all day, yes. And you live and die by those metrics. There'd be really good days, there'd be really bad days, but it was always about page views. Yep.
Yeah, and so once you said you started hiring some writers, some working for free, like were you able to expand your ambition of the site, or was it still just aggregation, curation? Like were you able to do any kind of original reporting? What was kind of the content mix?
So early on I was able to get some really good original reporting. I somehow fell on a source in my area. I'm from the Boston area, so there's a Google office here. And I was one of the first ones to report when Google Shopping Express came out. I had broke that story. I had pitched it to multiple publications, and like no one believed me. But I had a really good inside source that it was happening, and it was really dramatic as a really young writer, because my source eventually lost his job because of it, because Google like had him like really tracked down. I mean, like they were tracking his location, things like that, and they knew exactly who leaked it, and it was really eye-opening, and I felt responsible for the guy losing his job, but he was really cool about it.
And so like do you focus on just kind of like product updates, product launches, stuff like that? Do you do any kind of longer form stuff, or has it always been short form?
No, we have people who did longer form stuff. I want to add earlier that one of our big acquisition targets were Reddit. And back in the day, you can get Reddit traffic like easily, and it was moderated, but it wasn't like moderated as it is today. But I went hard on it, and eventually got our domain banned from Reddit. So
yeah, every publisher during that time figured out that Reddit was a traffic spigot, and then they started going on submitting their own links, and then Reddit would like either ban you outright or threaten to, and that would scare you off for a little while.
Yeah, it's funny because I always like outreach to the moderators. I'm like, please, can you I don't know, unban it?
Yeah. And it's funny because like Reddit's now completely pivoted and completely welcomes publishers to at least start their own subreddits and link freely from there. I don't know if you'll still get banned if you go into like the big subreddits and submit stuff.
I tried doing the subreddit thing and they still banned me. Yeah, so you got to like spend money on ads, I think, and then they slowly ease off their bans.
Yeah. And so as the site was growing, what was that doing for your PR business and stuff like that? Did it ever take kind of front seat, or was it always like a side project?
So that's a good question. I always try to keep it as a side project, because my media relations work is always front and center. I work with a really great agency, Easy PR, helmed by Ed Zetron. And I've known Ed for almost 15 years. So I try to give it my full attention, but sometimes it does overlap. But you just got to pull double duty sometimes and just get to work.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting that, like, you work with Ed, because, like, Ed has now become kind of famous. And I kind of was surprised at this, given that he does tech PR, that he's like one of the leading critics of tech. And he's especially been a very prominent critic of, AI, the big AI companies and all the claims they make. And now, whereas you go short form, he's known for writing these, like,
Oh.
10,000 word articles and stuff like that. So you said that your relationship with him goes back 15 years.
Oh, yeah.
How did you guys meet?
So one day I was reading his book. I was trying to learn PR. I was trying to learn media relations, and I read his book, and I was just like, man, this guy rocks, dude. I was like, he speaks it just the way it is, and by the way, he writes those 10,000 word articles in like 20 minutes. It's amazing. I've never seen anything like it. But I reached out to him, and I was, told him, I was like, hey, man, I want to work for you, and he got back in touch, and like eventually I showed him some results that I had proven for previous clients, and then he brought me on and took me under his wing.
What kind of work does the firm do? Like, is it doing like just like traditional PR? Is it doing content marketing? Like, what kind of stuff does it do?
We get results now, but mainly we do consumer tech PR, no content, things like that. We do occasionally do it for some clients, but it's mainly just like if you're launching a product, we get you in TV, radio, and online publications, but mainly digital media.
And how does, like, especially probably less you than him, but like obviously he's like a prominent tech critic. Is that help the business? Does it hurt the business? Like, how does that affect like the PR side?
It really helps the business, I would say, because you really have someone who's really passionate about what they're talking about, and they know all the journalists. I mean, Ed knows everyone, and it takes a critic to be able to say no to a journalist. Journalists, always are being, how would I say it, puffed up to, and when someone disagrees with them, they really take note of that, and so that's what Ed does. I remember he told me a story about Farhad Manjoo, and Farhad previously wrote for the New York Times.
Yeah, now works for Slate and stuff. Yeah.
And I remember this pitch that he wrote to him, and it was basically just like 400 words of him disagreeing with Farhad, and Farhad wrote back and basically said, "All right, let me hear what you got for a pitch," and it was eye opening. It's basically just talking to a journalist like a human being, because all day they're reading pitches, and a lot of these pitches are really bad, and so if you're just genuine.
So what are you doing for the firm? Like, is it just pitching, client relations? Like, what's the different stuff?
Pitching, media relations. My job is to know every journalist, essentially everyone's beat, drafting outreach campaigns, a media list, and all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. And when you say no, like just through the inbox, or are you like going out, like trying to like nurture relationships, getting drinks or and stuff like that with?
So I would say half my job is going out and meeting journalists face to face. And as I get older, I'm becoming more of an introvert, so it's getting harder and harder. But it's exciting. Back in the day, it was a lot funner because I had a really big expense account, and I could essentially just go to town, essentially. And but it was essentially nurturing relationships with journalists, and just knowing, like, when we get a new client, where to go to pitch this client to.
And where are you based now?
I'm still in Boston.
Okay, so is it like coming down to New York, or just
New York,
traveling?
San Francisco. Yeah, it's a lot of traveling at some points, but we do a lot of the trade shows, like CES. That's like a really big one that we do, and we have a really cool approach how we do CES. Usually what companies do is they rent out a suite, and then they just display whatever they're hawking. But what we do is essentially we get like taco makers, and we bring them to the room, and we just invite journalists to come by as a place to relax, a place to file stories, and a full stocked bar.
Yeah, and I seem to remember Ed was like recording a almost like a, I don't know if it was a live stream or just like a nonstop podcast while he was at
doing
CS or
it.
something.
Yeah, he was doing it like it was essentially like a live stream. I would say about like 4 hours at a time, which is really hard given that landscape over there. It's so chaotic at CES.
And in terms of like KnowTechie, how does that integrate with like, is there any like, are you covering these clients that like, is that like a perk or anything like that you're like, I can also, include that in your media or something like that?
No, that's usually a no for me. I try not to double dip in a sense because it shows some bias against our clients and stuff like that. So I try to keep that separate. And if I ever do, I'll disclaim it. I've done it like once or twice.
And so now, like heading into obviously this AI era where not only are AI generated summaries cutting into some publisher traffic, but then also Google is now updating, its algorithm and it's been punishing some sites and helping others. And given that you were heavily reliant on Google traffic as like a huge traffic source, how has that all affected you?
Yeah, it's definitely affected us. But I've seen it all. You know what I mean? It goes up, it goes down. You just gotta be consistent with it and just stick to it. But we have seen a decrease. I would say about like a 30% decrease. So it has affected us, but we've been morphing into like our newsletter game, as well as other channels. Like our Facebook has been growing rather fast.
So tell me about that. Like, do you feel, because like I talked to some of these publishers and they're like, it's all drive-by traffic, like, furniture reviews, like they're just or wedding like websites where they're just trying to capture someone during this brief time when they're looking to make a purchase or have a major event in their life, and they don't really have a deep relationship with their audience. Like it's a valuable relationship, but it's not a deep relationship. And so given that, as I've written on my newsletter a lot, that like I do think like a lot of Google traffic, that's not a deep relationship. It's people coming in to have a very specific question answered. How are you thinking about that? Like in terms of are you fine with that? Or are you trying to deepen that relationship and like strengthen the brand? What's your approach?
Yeah, I totally want to deepen that. It's really important that we keep these people tuned into the site because you want that. It's because if you don't want to be a fly-by-night company. So as much data as you can get on them, phone numbers, first name, last name, where they're from, because I feel like the future is going to be like more segmented, where you're basically personalizing an experience for them. And if you're not collecting emails, man, you're just simply losing out.
So what are you doing to entice people to sign up for a newsletter?
Yeah, so we do many things. Obviously, ads is a big one. Mainly we just basically say, hey, we have a newsletter, just sign up for it. But it's mainly one of the first things that happen when you visit the website. We basically trigger it like within I would say 5 or 10 seconds of you landing on it, and we try to come up with cute taglines that basically capture someone's attention, and pretty much.
So it's like an interstitial pop-up saying sign up for
Yep.
the newsletter. Is it just like a roundup of your stories that you're publishing to the website? Or are you trying to do like what Ed is doing and doing like original columns and takes and stuff like that?
No one could do what Ed does, unfortunately. I wish I could. No, it's mainly just like it's actually a really helpful newsletter, in my opinion. What we do is we offer basically a roundup of all major tech news that happened during the week, regardless if we wrote it or someone else wrote it. It's mainly us sharing other links for the most part. We do have a section where we just include all of our links, but for the most part, it's mainly other publications. But we do offer like a weekly how-to in there. We do offer deals. We do offer giveaways. Oh yeah, that's a big thing that we do here. Is we do giveaways a lot.
And a giveaway is like we have this product.
Yep.
And what if it's like a lottery, or what is it like?
Yeah, it's essentially a lottery. If you sign up with your email, if you give us your email, we'll enter you in this giveaway. The more things that you do, like follow our our Facebook page, our Twitter, things like that, the more entries you get. Like,
And is that like you're just like you have a budget for that, and you're like, I'm gonna purchase a PS5, and I'm kind of writing this off as a tax write off, and I'm gonna use that PS5 as basically a way to collect a bunch of email addresses?
yeah, pretty much. But for the most part, we built relationships with all these brands that we worked with. And they basically just provide the product for us as a way as exposure for their client.
And what are some of the examples of things that you give away?
So, for example, right now we're running a giveaway on a backup battery charger, which is it's like an $800 charger, and we're giving away like 2 of those right now at the moment. So, it's usually big ticket stuff, usually 500 and up products. So it gets a lot of people. It does attract some of a really negative audience at times, because these are people who are just looking for free stuff, and they don't really care what you're posting on your website as long as they enter. But for the most part, it's genuine people who are just looking for.
Do you have to clean? I've heard you had to, like, doing those giveaways, you have to clean your list more often because you do get those drive-by people and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. And these people will mark you as spam too. It's like you're like, all right, thanks.
Yeah, so it can bring in a high volume of email addresses, but you have to be vigilant in making sure if they're not opening those emails, you need to take them off the list pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, like every week I'm constantly like scrubbing at least like 100 people off the list. It hurts, but yeah, you gotta do it.
So what's your revenue mix now? Like, is it still mainly programmatic, or are you doing? Obviously, like, it seems like you're kind of primed for like affiliate links and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're heavy on the affiliates, as well as direct sponsorships as well. Working with brands directly, and getting that cash up front.
And so, when you work with a brand directly, are you doing? Is it a display ad? Is it like a sponsored post? Like, what is it?
Sponsored posts, and then we do display ads as well.
And is that like they're approaching you? Do you have like someone whose job it is to go out and get those brand deals and stuff like that?
Yeah, we have a sales team, a small sales team. It's just like one guy. It's like me and some other guy. But yeah, he basically goes out. That's his job. I give him a really healthy chunk of the commission. And I would say I give him about 35%, actually 40% of the deal. So it's really enticing for him to go out and get these deals done. And he does a really good job at doing them. I just wish I had 5 more of him.
Yeah, and that's just a set fee, it's not based on traffic or anything like that. It's just this is how much it costs to do a sponsored post.
We do have packages where it's performance based as well. So granted, if there's a post that we're promoting, we can guarantee the client X amount of views, and we do everything that we can to get those views, whether it's buying ads, things like that, but they will get their views.
And then for the affiliate links, is it just Amazon and Best Buy, or do you have special, I know there are some networks, or sometimes you can even forge direct deal, affiliate deals with direct to consumer companies. How do you approach the affiliate part?
Yeah, so we've been doing the affiliate stuff for a long time, and we went hard on it in the early days. So originally it was Amazon, and then Impact Radius, CJ, and then we started working with a company called Howl. I don't know if you're familiar with
HOWL. Okay.
Yeah. They used to be called another name before, but they changed the name. But they work with these brands, and they get these really good brand deals and stuff like that, where they eventually pass it on to us, where we get, for example, we did a lot of stuff with Samsung, and as long as we drove people to sign up with their emails, we got paid per clicks on each of those emails. So it's deals like that, and then their commissions are huge. They're 18%, 20% of whatever campaign they're running. So finding those boutique affiliates it is where the money's at.
And is it are you doing just the deals roundups, or are you doing obviously Wirecutter's kind of the gold standard in reviewing products? How are you thinking about the actual editorial content itself?
Sure. Originally it was just write reviews, and the more reviews you write, the more chances you get at making money. But then eventually you started finding out other ways. So one time Snapchat came out with actual merchandise that you could buy through Amazon, and I was one of the first people to cover it. And I remember making like, I remember it was like almost like $5,000 in one day, just being just promoting an Amazon link, and that really got me thinking. So, what other things can I be the first to report on that other people are not jumping on? So, we used to do these really dumb product roundups where like, here's the 5 things that I bought this week, or 5 things that I regret buying this week, and it would be like stupid things, and that would get a lot of like traffic for some reason. I don't know why. So we got a lot of traction on that. Our gift guides, buying guides were a huge thing. But with everything, especially with Google now cutting down our traffic, we had to like really downsize a lot. So now it's just like we're working with a skeleton crew. So now it's just mainly updating older pieces, buying guides, things like that, and just trying to maintain all the content that we've written in the past, and just keeping up with it.
So when the site was kind of at its peak, how many people did you have working for you?
At its peak, I would say we had like around like 10 to 15 people.
Full time or part time?
Not full time. I would say 5 full timers and like 5 freelancers.
And was that mainly just content people, or was
Yeah, all content people.
Yeah. And so what is it now?
So now it's probably, I would say, 1 full timer and like 3 part timers. But we're slowly building back up, and yeah, we're just trying. It's just, if you don't have the money, you can't hire writers.
And so it's just like they're just like however much time they have a week, they're just going out there and scouting for stories. Do they have their own beats, or is it kind of just a free for all?
Yeah, for the most part, they have their own beats. They build their own relationships with the PR people. It's one of the things that we require. It's just like, if you're writing about stuff, you want to get to know the people who are, pitching these products. And we had a lot of good guys who had really good relationships with companies. So like back in the early days when we were like a no-brand website, we were still getting those products. And it's what really set us apart in the early days, where it basically legitimized us.
And are these like freelance, like people who just write for, like journalists who write for other websites as well? Or?
Correct, yeah. And a few hobbyists as well.
And so what's kind of your week look like in terms of the time that you're devoting to KnowTechie versus like working on like the PR side?
Sure. It's dude, lately it's been really hard. My inbox has become this war zone where it basically commands most of my time. That's communicating with partners, brand deals, advertising, and just scammers for the most part. But I try to write at least like 2 news articles a day. I try to write original content as well, where I interview startup founders. I've been doing that more as of late, and still getting back to like my bare bones reviews. I love reviewing products. I love testing out new gadgets, and but when it comes to the PR side of things, I have to switch it off like around noon, 1 o'clock, and just focus on the rest of the day working on client stuff.
Okay, so you kind of demarcate, like you split your day in half. The morning is for KnowTechie, and the afternoon is mainly for the PR stuff.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
And it's hard sometimes because like if news breaks on the West Coast and it's like something that's pretty significant, or there's like an Apple event, it bleeds into my PR side of things. So sometimes you have to work a little longer, or you just got. It's just basically time management.
But is it just mainly you and Ed that are working for the PR firm, or do you guys have like a staff?
We have a staff. It's me, Ed, and a couple of other guys behind the scenes. But yeah, for the most part, it's me and Ed.
And do you have ownership in that firm, or is it just you're just an employee?
I choose not to share that at this time.
Okay, that's fine. And so when you do you work in terms of like, are you working on anything that's like multimedia, like podcast, video, stuff like that for KnowTechie, or is it all text-based content?
It's mainly text-based content, but we do work with video stuff. We're working with a company called Rizzle, and they basically create videos for us based off our content, and we basically pipe them a feed with the basically RSS feed, and they have an AI system that basically creates these videos for us, and it's actually really impressive stuff, which gets syndicated to MSN, Smart News, Newsbreak, and all those partners.
Yeah, so I think I saw this on your Instagram. So you're feeding you're feeding it a article, and it's creating a video that's like a AI generated voice that's kind of summarizing the news, and then it's using like stock photography, or maybe it's not stock, maybe it's AI generated images and videos and stuff like that. So someone could basically just sort of watch a video version of that
Correct.
article.
Yeah, it's actually Getty based images, which is like really, expensive. Like I would never be able to afford Getty based images because they're super expensive. But this company got their rights somehow, and yeah, they do a really good job. I was really against AI video stuff like that in the early days because it was so obvious that it was like a robot speaking, and it was just a bunch of images thrown together. But this company does a really good job at including the right images at the right time, subtitles and everything like that. And they do more than just like videos as well. But I have to give them props. They crush it.
Yeah. So Ed obviously has like this great personal brand. He's well known. His name is well known. What about you? Like, how do you think about your personal brand? Like as it relates to the content that you're creating and stuff like that.
I cringe at that word, personal brand. Have you ever watched that South Park episode?
I don't think so, though.
Yeah, there's basically an episode where Butters comes into school and he has like pep in his step, and then Kyle asks him, "Hey, what's going on?" He's just like, "I'm working on my personal brand." And he basically goes to like this like factory where people are working on their personal brands. I try to, as I get older, I'm trying to ease back on my personal brand. I don't want it out there as much as I used to be. But my personal brand involves many things actually. It's I play in metal bands. I do KnowTechie. I work for Easy PR. So it all kind of bleeds in together. And not to mention, there's another Kevin Raposo, who's based out of Toronto, I believe. And we're always competing for our top spots. And
Really? Like who has the top spot of Google right now?
I do.
Okay, yeah,
But
because there are other Simon Owens, including like a Simon Owens that's like a somewhat well-known radio presenter, and at least in the I think he's Australian, and at least in the U.S., I'm dominating the top of search results. I'm sure if you're like searching from Australia, he probably dominates, but at least in the U.S., and there was also a music director who was briefly a music video director who was briefly competing with me, but I seem to have beat him pretty handily. He must have. I don't know where he went with his career, but
it could be worse.
Yeah, yeah. I could have like a very like generic name like Jack Smith or something like that, and then it'd be. Or the worst is when you have the same name as like a famous athlete because there's just no competition.
Oh my God. Or like a serial killer. That's the worst.
Well, yeah, I'm sure that's the worst. But like I feel like the famous athlete is more common just because there are thousands upon thousands of famous athletes, and so all you need is like a slightly generic name, and chances are there's a famous athlete out there.
But I always say, man, like so this other Kevin Raposo, he's like in media too. He's like a really great photographer. And he does like events in Boston as well. And like I've always said to him, I'm like, hey man, we should just like join forces and just become this mega Kevin Raposo. And
yeah, you could speak for each other and start dressing like each other. So when you look in the future, what do you want to be doing a few years from now that you're not doing now? Do you given that you're trying to kind of reduce your personal brand, like it kind of that always signals to me that someone's looking to sell their company at some point because they don't want their personal brand to associate with it because that makes it less enticing as an acquisition target. So how are you thinking about the future of KnowTechie?
I want to create something, and that's always what I've wanted to do from day one is just write and create. And now with the advent of like vibe coding and all that stuff, I've been working on a few things, nothing concrete, but working on content related things where I could eventually sell to other blogs and things like that. But nothing I can share right now because I'm still like learning how to do it and I still don't know what I'm building.
Is this something that's separate from KnowTechie, or like this is a different project?
It's actually going to be involved with KnowTechie. It's more like an affiliate thing. Somehow it's going to make us money. But yeah, it's just like I like deals. I love like following. I'm like a bargain hunter, so it's basically something that would alert you anytime a product that you've been following is available, things like that. So just more personalized.
Yeah. What about like content wise? Like, do you want to get back to the point where you have more revenue, can hire more creators? Do you want to get into podcast or anything like that, or what's your?
Yeah, I would love to get into podcasting, but my thing is I have a stutter, so I'm always conscious about that. But we can always have other people do it. It's just it's a lot of time, effort, juggling all these things, and when you're just the only one managing everything, it gets overwhelming at times, and you can only do so much. I have a family, I have friends, I have other hobbies. Playing metal drums is like really difficult, so I have to practice every day on that as well. So it's like time is really against me. So one thing I would love to do is just create, man. Is just create content and not have to worry about the business side of things.
Well, Kevin, those were all the questions I have for you. Where can people find you online?
You can find me at KnowTechie.com, or you can find us our newsletter, the weekly download, at mail.knowtechie.com.
Well, this is a lot of fun. Thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it.